The old man felt faint and sick, and he could not see well, but he cleared the harpoon line and let it run slowly through his raw hands, and, when he could see, he saw the fish was on his back, with his silver belly up. The shaft of the harpoon was projecting at an angle from the fish's shoulder, and the sea was discoloring with the red of the blood from his heart. First, it was dark as a shoal in the blue water that was more than a mile deep. Then it spread like a cloud. The fish was silvery and still, and floated with the waves. The old man looked carefully in the glimpse of the vision that he had. Then he took 2 turns of the harpoon line around the bit in the bow, and laid his head on his hands. "Keep my head clear," he said, against the wood of the bow. "I am a tired old man, but I have killed this fish, which is my brother, and now I must do the slave work. Now I must prepare the nooses and the rope to lash him alongside," he thought. "Even if we were 2, and swamped her to load him, and bailed her out, this skiff would never hold him. I must prepare everything. Then bring him in, and lash him well, and step the mast, and set sail for home." He started to pull the fish in to have him alongside, so that he could pass a line through his gills and out his mouth, and make his head fast alongside the bow. "I want to see him," he thought, "and to touch and to feel him. He is my fortune," he thought, "but that is not why I wish to feel him. I think I felt his heart," he thought, "when I pushed on the harpoon shaft the 2nd time. Bring him in now, and make him fast, and get the noose around his tail, and another around his middle, to bind him to the skiff." "Get to work, old man," he said. He took a very small drink of the water. "There is very much slave work to be done now that the fight is over." He looked up at the sky, and then out to his fish. He looked at the sun carefully. "It is not much more than noon," he thought, "and the trade wind is rising. The lines all mean nothing now. The boy and I will splice them when we are home." "Come on, fish," he said. But the fish did not come. Instead, he lay there, wallowing now in the seas, and the old man pulled the skiff up to him. When he was even with him, and had the fish's head against the bow, he could not believe his size. But he untied the harpoon rope from the bit, passed it through the fish's gills and out his jaws, made a turn around his sword, and then passed the rope through the other gill, made another turn round the bill, and knotted the double rope and made it fast to the bit in the bow. He cut the rope then, and went astern to noose the tail. The fish had turned silver from his original purple and silver, and the stripes showed the same pale violet color as his tail. They were wider than a man's hand, with his fingers spread, and the fish's eye looked as detached as the mirrors in a periscope, or as a saint in a procession. It was the only way to kill him, the old man said. He was feeling better since the water, and he knew he would not go away, and his head was clear. "He's over 1,500 pounds the way he is," he thought. "Maybe much more. If he dresses out 2/3 of that at 30 cents a pound? I need a pencil for that," he said. My head is not that clear. But I think the great DiMaggio would be proud of me today. I had no bone spurs, but the hands and the back hurt truly. I wonder what a bone spur is, he thought. Maybe we have them without knowing of it. He made the fish fast to the bow and stern, and to the middle thwart. He was so big, it was like lashing a much bigger skiff alongside. He cut a piece of line, and tied the fish's lower jaw against his bill, so his mouth would not open, and they would sail as cleanly as possible. Then he stepped the mast, and, with the stick that was his gaff, and with his boom rigged, the patched sail drew, the boat began to move, and half lying in the stern, he sailed southwest. He did not need a compass to tell him where southwest was. He only needed the feel of the trade wind and the drawing of the sail. I had better put a small line out with a spoon on it and try to get something to eat and drink for the moisture. But he could not find a spoon, and his sardines were rotten. So he hooked a patch of yellow gulfweed with the gaff as they passed, and shook it so that the small shrimps that were in it fell onto the planking of the skiff. There were more than a dozen of them, and they jumped and kicked like sand fleas. The old man pinched their heads off with his thumb and forefinger and ate them, chewing up the shells and the tail. They were very tiny, but he knew they were nourishing, and they tasted good. The old man still had 2 drinks of water in the bottle, and he used half of one after he had eaten the shrimps. The skiff was sailing well, considering the handicaps, and he steered with the tiller under his arm. He could see the fish, and he had only to look at his hands and feel his back against the stern to know that this had truly happened, and was not a dream. At one time, when he was feeling so badly toward the end, he had thought, perhaps, it was a dream. Then, when he had seen the fish come out of the water and hang motionless in the sky before he fell, he was sure there was some great strangeness, and he could not believe it. Then he could not see well, although now he saw as well as ever. Now he knew there was the fish, and his hands and back were no dream. The hands cure quickly, he thought. I bled them clean, and the salt water will heal them. The dark water of the true Gulf is the greatest healer that there is. All I must do is keep the head clear. The hands have done their work, and we sail well, with his mouth shut and his tail straight up and down. We sail like brothers. Then his head started to become a little unclear, and he thought, is he bringing me in, or am I bringing him in? If I were towing him behind, there would be no question. Nor if the fish were in the skiff, with all his dignity gone, there would be no question either. But they were sailing together, lashed side by side, and the old man thought, let him bring me in, if it pleases him. I am only better than him through trickery, and he meant me no harm. They sailed well, and the old man soaked his hands in the salt water, and tried to keep his head clear. There were high cumulus clouds, and enough cirrus above them, so that the old man knew the breeze would last all night. The old man looked at the fish constantly to make sure it was true. It was an hour before the first shark hit him. The shark was not an accident. He had come up from deep down in the water as the dark cloud of blood had settled and dispersed in the mile-deep sea. He had come up so fast and absolutely without caution that he broke the surface of the blue water and was in the sun. Then he fell back into the sea and picked up the scent and started swimming on the course the skiff and the fish had taken.